This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac. 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 16 campus and community radio stations from Newfoundland to British Columbia. I'm your reporter, Stefan Andrusiak. From Central California, this is episode 193. You're listening to what's known as Conjunto de Arpa Grande music, or Big Harp Ensemble. This is a country cousin to Mexican mariachi music. You see, when mariachi was transplanted to cities in the mid-1920s, trumpets were added. The Conjunto de Arpa stayed home, where life is less cluttered, in the towns, on the ranches. This is the story of leaving big cities behind in search of a healthier, more rural lifestyle here in walnut and almond growing country. I'm going to travel between Atwater and neighboring Merced. They are sister communities, 98 miles or 158 kilometers by air southeast of Sacramento, the state capital. You're listening to the band Arpe. They're based in Atwater. This selection is from a Smithsonian Folkways recording. It is a Sunday morning in late January. Standing outside Sacred Heart Roman Catholic Church, Mass just having finished, Father Juan Maldonado greets exiting worshipers just outside the front doors.
Good morning, God bless you. It's a great community. Most of the people are agricultural. They're primarily from a Hispanic background in our parish community here. And in this community, we have a lot of people, who are field workers. I think the joy here is that it's multicultural. And the more you know about the cultures, the more you appreciate each other. And you get a sense of who they are and their own spirituality as well. And that was an enrichment for me growing up in the Central Valley. But in this part of Merced, we also have a lot of poverty. And so we see a lot of people who are not only struggling with finding a job, but they're looking for that assistance and that help, especially the children, because that's where we see that the children are the ones that suffer. And they look for a better life with their parents, and we try to make that and make it easier.
I'm sensing there's a great deal of concern about climate change and maybe the supply of water. Do you think that this area will thrive in the future?
Well, we did have a drought for quite many years in the last maybe 6 or 7 years, but ever since last year, we've been having a good amount of rainfall. And so in terms of the water supply, we should be okay for quite a few years now. And so we're not really worried about the drought, at least not now.
Less than a half hour by car to the south along Route 99 stands a white trailer home at the edge of a sweet potato field. This was once a thriving 40-acre almond grove. The trees dried, the owners died, the land now rented. And in the trailer, a TV director writes scripts, enjoying the peace and quiet, having come to understand who his parents were and why they came here.
Hey, you guys in radio early. Come on in.
Thank you.
Do you want some coffee? Do you drink coffee?
I love some coffee, yeah.
My name is Yuri George Sivo. You'll notice the three names. I use the Ukrainian name and the American version, which is George Sivo, which is a shortening of my family name. I'm in media, film and television, so years ago I thought I would streamline the name and instead of civil up. That's the thing. I grew up in two cultures. Ukrainian parents, World War II refugees. Grew up in a very strict Ukrainian household. We spoke Ukrainian at home, went to Ukrainian school on Saturday, Sunday school.
You were born in Los Angeles?
No, I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York, up the Hudson River from New York City. We all moved when my father got a job in aerospace, Southern California. A little program called the Gemini program, and then it turned into Apollo.
Your mother sang opera.
Yes, my mother sang opera. She is from the western part of Ukraine, near the Polish border. She performed a little bit with the New York City Opera, and then she performed a lot in the Ukrainian community back in New York City and also Los Angeles. So I didn't grow up in Los Angeles City. I grew up in 40 miles south of Los Angeles in a different county called Orange County, now known affectionately as the OC. So we would commute. I called it being bused into Los Angeles for Saturday school and Sunday school. But I grew up in a very white, middle-class neighborhood who didn't have any idea where Ukraine was on a map.
So you had this very intense Ukrainian experience within the walls of your home, and you walked out into this environment every day?
I grew up with a father from eastern Ukraine who grew up under Stalin, the Holodomor, the hunger. He witnessed that. And then my mother was in western Ukraine. She was captured by Nazis and taken to a place called Buchenwald for the last 11 months of World War II. So I'm growing with perspective, two parents who suffered under two heinous dictators.
You have two sisters.
Yes, I have an older sister, Oksana, and a younger sister, Halina. When I grew up in Plost, I felt I was kind of misinformed what Plost was.
You mentioned Plost. Now, Plost is a scouting organization in the spirit of Lord Baden-Powell.
Yes, it's like a Boy Scouts. My parents said it was like American Boy Scouts, but all my American Boy Scout friends never got merit badges and creating, dirt traps and for the enemy, which we did. Looking back on what Plost was, it seems it was part of the youth brigade of the Ukrainian Resistance Army, UPA. Suspected something weird was happening when I became older, 13, 14, and you notice your leader, commandant, is wearing jodhpurs and very militaristic, and we were very militaristic, and it was nothing like American Boy Scouts. I grew up with talking points that we have to train ourselves and study well, and someday we'll go to Ukraine and fight the Soviets. I didn't quite understand the mechanics of how that would happen, who gets the plane tickets, where do we get our weapons. We practiced with wooden rifles. When you start becoming a teenager, you're starting to question everything. And I start questioning what this other identity I had on weekends and dreaming with this Ukrainian world. And, I was a rebel, so I was questioning everything.
And what did you do about it?
I left, and I pretty much forgot my Ukrainian heritage for a while.
Віють вітри, віють буйні, дуба нахиляє, сидить козак на могилі, та й вітра питає. Сидить козак на могилі, та й вітра питає.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, and on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, British Columbia.
You're still in Los Angeles generally, right?
I'm in New York right now.
When did you experience the call back into the Ukrainian sphere? I mean, you literally walked away having been turned off, you say.
If there was one thing, it's the death, losing two parents in 2013. Lost a mother September, and then lost a father right before Christmas. And then you kind of ask yourself, well, what am I about? Who are my people? What do I stand for? And I was doing quite a lot of work. I was pretty successful, writing a lot of scripts and doing some directing. I was very cynical about Ukraine, didn't really care about it, and then suddenly this thing is happening in Kiev, and it's quite extraordinary. And it keeps growing and growing, and then I lose a second parent, then you're really left and alone and grieving, and it exploded, the Maidan.
So you went to Ukraine?
Yes, so I'm watching this early 2014, and I thought, gosh, I need to be there. Russia is pulling something, and you have to understand my background, harkening to the days of Blast and that indoctrination where someday you will grow up and go fight the Soviets. Suddenly it's like, wait a second, there's something weird happening here. And I just started investigating that and looking deeper and deeper. Then I discovered that the period when I was very disillusioned with Ukraine, starting in 2010 when Viktor Yanukovych was elected, and I felt Ukraine was going backwards back into the Soviet Union days, I discovered that there was an American who was behind this, groomed him and turned him into a candidate called Paul Manafort, who's now found guilty on several charges in the Mueller, and they went to court, and he's in prison now, sentenced for 7 years.
The Mueller inquiry.
The Mueller inquiry, yes. He's a thread that figures into a lot of the stuff that's happening right now in politics in America, and you hear this American who was responsible for this terrible president being elected. That sparked my interest. So the more you dig, the more you talk to people in Kiev. And I kept going back to Kiev, talking to journalists, talking to people in government. And you're hearing this incredible story, and you don't know if you quite believe it, because is this all what their perspective? And then I came back to the U.S., and I was in New York at the time, and I was corroborating a lot. Open source investigation. The Guardian was covering some of this material, but there's a lot of Ukrainska Pravda, Ukrainian Pravda. A lot of people were writing about this, and they identified Paul Manafort as early as 2007, and it was a big question mark. So when Trump started his campaign, then you hear that Paul Manafort is the campaign manager. All my friends in Kiev saying, are you guys serious? What's wrong with Americans? Don't you know who this guy is? Ukraine had been independent since, I believe, 91. It never quite left this Russian sphere, and Russia was always trying to control it, and it still is to this day. And suddenly you want question like, why is it that certain guys in power, in this instance it was Putin, but then also Yanukovych, they can become authoritarian figures, and they suddenly decide the fates of millions of people. And I found that was a horrible injustice, and I saw this happening.
You wrote a screenplay on this.
Yes, I started investigating. It was actually a TV series that I was developing. It told the point of view of this American, and it's looking at American abroad story and how they get involved in this dark world. So this guy is suddenly in Ukraine, and what I'm learning for Kiev is he's working for 10 years. Money laundering, he got involved in backing Yanukovych, keeping him in power, various devices, helping Yulia Tymoshenko be thrown into jail he's starting to pull everything together. What turns a Italian-American strong Republican for years and father like this into somebody who you can look back in hindsight, is he collaborating with Russia and repeating Kremlin tactics in Ukraine? And then I maintain that he brought a lot of those to America in the campaign.
Professionally, is this where you are focusing right now on this topic area?
It's one of the topic areas. I'm in filmmaking and TV making, you work in several projects at the same time.
It sounds like you're back in the sphere of Ukrainian interest on your own steam, in your own way, for your own reasons.
Yeah, I feel like I reconnected with my roots. It was sort of a political awakening and just realizing what is happening. And then you realize that, there's a threat in the world. It's Putin and it's Russia. And I think that's really important to identify. And unfortunately, Ukraine is caught in the middle.
We're in California. We're in Almond country. Your parents moved from Los Angeles, from Orange County here. Can you just briefly bring that sidebar into your story and how you now find yourself here?
Right. So my father worked in aerospace, and then he retired. He left, and my mother never performed professionally. She was always practicing and doing local things. And I think they felt the calling back to the land because they're both from small farming villages. And there were a few other Ukrainian families who were already moving from Southern California, from our Los Angeles circle, into Central Valley, North Central Valley, and starting to have farms. And I think my father was looking for a second act, a gentleman farmer, and they got land, and slowly they moved from Santa Ana and settled here. First they grew walnuts, and then they grew almonds. My father acquired 90 acres of almond orchards, and then after he died, suddenly it's, well, who's going to take care of it? What do you do with that land? It was my sisters and I, and we hired a caretaker, the same guy who had been doing it. And right now, I left New York City and relocating to Los Angeles. And I knew there was this farm here, and I'd just been doing a lot of writing, and I needed quiet and isolation, and this place is perfect.
What about continuing on in farming in some fashion and keeping it going?
It belongs to all of us, so yes, in a sense, we want to continue this, but have I been called back to farming? No. I find it very kind of interesting, and try to learn about it, but I don't feel like, suddenly I'm a farmer, and nor would I want to be.
You're listening to the Kubasonics from Newfoundland. This melody is part of a longer song called Tumba Tumba. When Yuri Sivo's parents moved to the area, they did so with other Ukrainian families, all of whom wanted to escape the air pollution of Los Angeles, to own land, to grow a crop, and in so doing, to invest in a financially sustainable, healthy lifestyle. Some of these original settlers still live in the area, near Yuri, in the town of Atwater.
Я є Марія Савеленко.
Maria Savelenko, her friends call her Marusia, is a family friend of mine. Born in Ukraine in the city that is now Obukhyu, she was born in 1928.
Родилася на Київщині, 20 кілометрів від Києва. Революція була на Україні, мого батька розкуркулили.
When the communists took over their village, her family was evicted. Her baby brother Ivan, an infant, nearly froze.
Нас з хати все забрали, і мого брата найменшого Івана, який був ще у пеленках, виклали його на сніг.
Her father was sent away to work in a tractor factory in Kharkiv.
Батька забрали, не було. Не тільки батька, усіх на Поповій горі забрали будувати тракторстрой. Знаєте, фабрика величезна.
Her mother, desperate with 4 children, found an abandoned structure. No glass in the windows, she filled sacks with straw and stuffed them into the openings. But, says Marusia, still water leaked in everywhere.
Але добре, що моя мама мала 2 братів, дядя Грицько і дядя Микола, які дуже дбали за мамою. І нас 4 малих, вони нам допомагали, що вони тільки могли нам.
Her family survived for 2 reasons. One, her mother had 2 brothers who cared deeply for their sister. Destitute themselves in any way they could, they helped.
Тато прийшов додому.
Second, her father had a trade.
Бідні. Мама з 4 малими дітьми, пам'ятаю.
When he returned from the factory, he made shoes and boots.
Тато мав не один фах, починає, що головне його спасало. Він умів не тільки щось інше робити, а він умів чоботи, черевики, все шити.
Neighbors, strangers, scrounged materials. He would fashion these into footwear. They would pay him in food and other necessities.
А тоді була страшна погоня, бо люди нічого не мали. І почали люди йому нести все, і масло, і молоко, що тільки не було, давали. І він годував тоді цілу родину.
During the war, faced with German and Soviet occupiers, one after the other, the family escaped, all except for one brother. He too had been shipped out to work, where he became sick and would later die. His name was Mykola. He was 24.
Коли німці верталися назад, батько не має вибору. Або там йому голову знесуть, або там.
The war now over, Marusia met her husband in a displaced persons camp.
Війна закінчилася, ми почали люди збиратися у табір, чуємо, що табір збираються всі українці. І ми були у Майнській стелі, нас було там 5 тисяч народу.
She and Anatoly married, and they emigrated to the United States, lucky enough to work on a farm in Pennsylvania.
Я вийшла заміж, я була дуже молода.
Then to Los Angeles, where they met other Ukrainian emigres, found common ground, built a church, rejoicing in each other's company and support. It was 1964.
Добре з тобою. Мені так, добре з тобою. З тобою добре так.
It was her husband Anatoly's health problems and new potential for a better lifestyle in Central California that enticed them to move to Atwater, Merced.
На мою думку, так як я себе знаю, що ми переїхали сюди, як кожному кажу, ми не помилилися.
Here they bought a home and land, hired a farm manager, became almond growers.
Клімат мене задовольняє тут. Дуже задовольняє. Я ніколи не думала, що мій чоловік помре. Він був як дуб.
Pani Marusia remembers Anatoly as her towering oak. But when he was a boy, he startled his horse. It reacted by kicking him with its hind hooves. He survived, but the head injury years later would lead to consequences that would prove fatal.
Він вирвав їження для коня, а кінь вийшов за куща, вибіг отак. А кінь злякався та назад копитами і дістав копитом його.
Ті очі, темніші ночі, хто в них задивиться й сонця не хоче, тебе віддаючи, любити мушу, тебе кохаючи, загублю душу. Ой, ти, дівчино, ясна, як зоре, ти мої радощі, ти моє горе.
Стефан, нам правдиво люди робили,
Pani Marusia credits solid professional advice for her return on investment.
але воно все вернулося.
We planted trees. 5 years later, we were able to harvest almonds.
Ти починаєш повний крап мати. 25
Your annual yields should continue for another 25 years.
ви можете пересаджувати.
Then you
як
can
ми.
plant new trees. I ask about climate change and about drought and the possibilities of a negative in the future. She says, keep your own head about you.
Всюди все міняється. Climate change. Я все дивлюся, бачу. І не слухайте, бо забагато часом говорять, бо вони мусять гроші заробляти, щоб жити.
Beware of naysayers. You shouldn't be afraid of getting into this kind of a crop. Once they had to dig a deeper well. Problems can be solved. Don't be afraid of the challenge. There is a good chance to do well on your investment.
Зробили ми помпи, зробили, якщо треба, все зробили. І до цих пір ще ми ніколи не мали, щоб ми не поливали або щось не робили.
The woman who as a child was evicted by the communists into the cold and the snow says, keeping money in a bank alone is a poor choice these days. Only property, land, a home can give you security.
Маємо лавзі 3 копійочки проценту. Що це таке? Не насмішка для людей? Де таке коли були?
Interest rates are pathetic. 3 kopecks worth. It's laughable. My trees are older. The yields aren't as profitable, but I am never without money. I have enough. That's the value of property.
Я не в силі наново садити. Мені хватає того, що лишилося. Той сад є, хоч він не такий прихід дає, але я ніколи не без грошей.
Sometimes the weather turns ugly. Damage is done to the trees.
Але ми пересаджуємо, бо коли погода погана, вирве дерево або трісне, треба його спиляти і викидати.
We replace those that are damaged. We plant younger trees, and the grove is replenished.
Тоді садимо молодші, а тоді знову садимо молодше. І завжди воно іде отак. Як ми купили, що ми 40 акрів з ними, ми заплатили 200 тисяч.
When we bought the first 40 acres, we paid $200,000, $5,000 an acre. Today, agricultural land is worth 3 times that.
Гроші не є гарантовані, що є у банку, коли така ситуація кругом. Подивіться, які проценти колись давали.
I never thought, she says, that I would live this long. Recently, she went to her doctor, depressed.
Я ніколи не думала, що я до цього віку доживу.
He asks her, how does she feel?
Мені сказав: Марія, how you feel? А я кажу: доктор Джонсон, кажу, я почуваюся дуже добре, але не знаю, що буде, бо я знаю, що я сама буду додому йти. Хто ж мене буде доглядати? Знаєте, я так як простой. А він до мене дивиться, я чуть не заплакала, він каже:
I was almost in tears. I asked the doctor, who will watch over me when I'm home, all alone, in the coming years?
Він засміявся, каже: Бог тебе провадив до цього, повір мені, Бог тебе провадив до цього віку, не журись і не плач, і далі будеш ти під його крилами.
He smiles, turns to me, and he says, God has watched over you this long. He will continue to keep you under his wings.
В навушниках світло вмикає на репіт. Мені так добре з тобою. Добре з тобою. Мені так добре з тобою. Мені
In this program, you heard the song The Wind Blows, The Powerful Wind Blows by Volodymyr Verminsky. Rushnechok singing Oi Ty Dівчино, My Beloved. And this is a song about the joy of companionship, Taraborova, and Dobre z tobою. It's good to be with you. I wish to gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Shevchenko Foundation. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.